Hello, my name is Claudia Kobos. Welcome to the Setting Boundaries webinar. The objectives of this webinar are to review personal, professional, and physical boundaries, to discuss how to set those boundaries with students, and to review the consequences for not setting boundaries. So what are boundaries? Boundaries are the lines that mark our limits. What are your boundaries? Please take a moment to think about this. What are your personal boundaries with students, coworkers? Why is it important to have professional boundaries? You may be thinking about the fact that setting professional boundaries avoids miscommunications. They may also increase your ability to work more professionally and effectively with students if they understand that there are consequences for breaking those boundaries. Let's go over some examples. There are 3 types of boundaries that we will discuss here: personal, professional, and physical. Personal boundaries include boundaries that you set in your personal life, perhaps with family members. Professional boundaries include boundaries you set in the workplace, particularly with the students. It could be something like not shouting out in the middle of class. Physical boundaries include boundaries you set with others. Perhaps you don't like others putting their hands on you for any reason. Take a moment to think of a real-life example of when personal boundaries were not set with the student. How did you feel? Think of a real-life example of when professional boundaries were not set with the student. How did you feel? Lastly, think of a real-life example of when physical boundaries were not set with the student. How did it feel? Healthy boundaries for teachers and school staff. Professional behavior is a priority. Your personal, professional values, rights, and responsibilities are more important than any sense of needing to be liked by others, needing to please others, or needing to make a good impression. Healthy boundaries keep your personal and professional values and rights intact. Next, we will troubleshoot boundary issues. Some people don't take hints about overstepping workplace boundaries. If you're dealing with a colleague who regularly attempts to breach your boundaries, how can you respond? Do you have a protocol in place for this at your site? If so, what is it? Setting boundaries can sometimes be difficult when you are in 2 positions. Many of our staff are also parents to our students. So the roles are parent and employee. What are the challenges and how do you set up boundaries when you are both a parent and an employee? This can get a little bit difficult, but is it doable? Absolutely. What are the challenges and how do you set up boundaries when you are a brother or sister of a student and an employee? What are the challenges and how do you set up boundaries when you are related in some way to another employee? If you're related to someone, you may interact with them very differently at home than you would at your work setting. Now we move into boundaries with students. Setting boundaries with students. You are a teacher, school staff for your students. That's clear. And you cannot be available to them 24/7. Ask students to respect your boundaries once you establish them. You are not their friend, but you can serve as a support system for them. Create boundaries that allow students to feel comfortable to talk to you, but does not offer them to contact you all the time, 24/7. These boundaries allow for the opportunity for self-care. Self-care. What is it? What do you do in your life to take care of yourself? How do you practice this? Do you ever take me time? How can you practice self-care every single day? Think of anything that you would be doing if you didn't have to be at work. whether that's watching TV, going to Disneyland, anything at all. Self-care is extremely important when working with young students. Do's and don'ts. We're going to look at two scenarios here. If you're the teacher, let's say, students following you on Instagram, or students following you on Facebook. Are either of these appropriate? Why or why not? Now we will look at professional versus physical boundaries. How much do you share with students about your personal life? What are your physical boundaries with students? Now we will review the do's. Think before you act. Learn about the law and your liability as a teacher or school staff. Work with your door open. Have another adult present when attending to the personal needs of a student. Compliment or commend students without hugging or touching them. Report any reasonable suspicion of child abuse to proper authorities. Clarify procedures with your principal regarding potentially threatening situations. Keep contemporaneous notes of any situation that you believe might become of concern in the future. Get parents and principals' approval regarding all activities of school property. Let students know when they are overstepping your professional boundaries. Seek input from colleagues or other professionals if unsure of the appropriateness of your actions or plans. Now we will review the consequences. What can happen if personal, professional, and/or physical boundaries are violated? There's a number of things that can occur if these boundaries are violated. These can include legal action, termination, and so forth. This is the reason why boundaries are so important to have in the workplace.